on we have no class next week because it's the week of Thanksgiving. The whole university is we don't come to class the whole of next week, and then the week after I will not be here. I will post recorded lectures, and I'm planning to do one on GUIs and Swing, just because it's useful for object orientation. It's one of the main uses of objects. And another one on linked lists, just as a kind of preview of what you will do in data structures. And also because it allows us to play with recursion again and things like that. But in a way, right, none of this stuff after assignment 10 is truly on the final, but hopefully all of that stuff is making this stuff on the final to become easy, right? I mean, we are doing exceptions, we are doing classes, we are doing, right? You don't need to know about Swing or GUIs or how to access databases with JDBC or anything like that, but we are using all of the stuff that we have learned. And the phone book was just kind of a bigger example. So let me show you what we have, and I'll go look and see if I can post the next one. But keep in mind that the final exam is comprehensive. And so I could ask you all this stuff at the beginning. In this class, it is true, but more because in order to do this stuff at the end, right? I mean, you need if statements, you need. The only thing that I will ask you on the final that is more because is recursion. I will ask you again recursion on the final because you need to understand that. So I will ask you recursion, just so you know. Everything else, you are using it anyway. But so, write a class called fraction with the following methods: a constructor and constructor. A constructor that takes two int parameters, the numerator and denominator. A method called getNumerator that returns an int, the numerator. A method called getDenominator that returns an int, the denominator. And a method called toDouble that returns a double, the equivalent decimal to the fraction. So let's do it. I'm going to create a new package. I'm going to call it finalish. And create a new fraction, a new class called fraction. Yes, add it to Git. And then one of you is going to come and write that stuff, right? Sure. Who's going to volunteer? Or we name a volunteer?
I'll do it.
Cool. Or yeah.
What?
You fight it out. No, you fight it out and you do the next one or something like that.
Are you going to do it now? Or rock, paper, scissors? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. 1, 2, 3, shoot. Go ahead.
Let's see.
Settling disputes since time
Yeah,
immemorial,
exactly.
right?
Okay. Now, you already created the function, so I'm going to get the string. No, this is.
What two pieces of data do you need to represent a fraction?
The denominator and numerator.
Right? And what are those?
So I'll get int Hmm?
Now, in English, right, half of those end with an E. ER instead of OR.
Okay.
Fix the typo, fix the T, denominator.
Denominates.
Yeah, my wife is German,
Okay.
so they learn British English.
Oh,
We
okay.
always
Let me
argue
make
about,
it.
of course, being American, like, yeah, but you learn English because America speaks English. And they're like, no, we learn British English. I'm like, get out of here.
You tell them when you win a World War from pocket.
Yeah, exactly. 0-2, baby.
We're writing a constructor, right?
Yeah.
With two parameters.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, if you look, right, we have a problem. There's red stuff. Yeah, your constructor cannot be static, right? It's a constructor, so it needs an instance. It's building an instance, so it needs an instance.
Yeah. Okay. Now I can get okay, gates.
Yeah, that you're still inside the constructor.
Yeah. Okay.
No static, no static.
For getter and setter. No. No study.
They need a fraction, right? You need a fraction to call get numerator. Right?
Yeah.
So you would call it with a fraction, so it cannot be static. We use static a lot at the beginning because those are things that are really not attached to a class. There will be functions in other programming languages, but Java doesn't have them.
Like here, int. Okay, good.
You do return.
Yeah, return.
Numerator or this dot numerator. Either one will work, right? You don't need this.
Can I do
That's
double?
For get denominator, no. Has to be an int, right?
Yeah, int.
Now we need double one, right?
Yeah.
Two double. It's called two double.
Oh, two double.
Not good, not good. TO, two double. Sorry.
Okay.
you fix the typo, you wrote two double and ended it an L. It should be an E double.
Right here.
Keep going forward.
Okay.
There. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Cool. And that is it.
Yes, it
Thank you.
works.
Yeah. By now, right, this stuff should be that. You should be able to write this kind of stuff without thinking.
Last line I'm not able to understand the logic.
For
Last one.
the last one, the problem is that Java, as most programming languages, will see, and if you're doing two integers, will do them as integers and do integer division,
Okay, yeah.
right? And so what we're doing is casting the denominator to a double, and so that makes it a double. Now it's an int divided by a double,
Yes.
and so that becomes a double.
Okay.
If you cast the numerators as double as well, is that okay? I'm like, let's see.
Maybe. Here's the problem. What happens? I don't know in Java, right? And I think now it improved. What normally happens when you do that is that it gets parsed as still do the thing, numerator slash denominator as ints, and then cast the whole result to a double. So if you put parentheses, yes. If not, maybe.
Okay.
And
You
so
found on the homework or the assignment work once when we had to do that, so.
I've seen it work for some people.
Yeah.
So, but this way always works because it can only be parsed that way, one way.
Makes sense.
So it's kind of a trick to always write it this way.
Totally different.
The other one would work if you put parentheses. If you do double and then numerator and put the parentheses around that stuff, that would definitely work. If not, I don't know. Cool. Thank you. Cool. So, number 2, given the following interface, create a class book that implements the product interface. Should return book for get type, have a constructor taking the other two fields. So, I'm gonna create, yes, Java IDE is dumb. Interface, I'm gonna call it product. And now you're gonna volunteer, right? To do the next one. So you create class book.
Do you ever run into any issues if you have Java classes with the same name but in different packages?
What about it?
Like, would that create any issues or?
No, because it's just that you have to refer to them with the full name,
Okay.
and you would not be able to import those packages with star, because then you would have imported stuff with wrong classes. Oh, it doesn't like you because you wrote it, you created it as book. Hi, no. That doesn't like. It's book.java? Yeah, never mind. Keep going. Oh yeah, yeah.
I
Now it's
haven't done
telling you
my-
that you
my
haven't declared
methods.
those things.
Yeah.
You can cut and paste them from product. Or from there.
We just have to do the method, right?
Sorry? You
Return
can.
book for good.
You gotta
Yeah.
create the interface first.
No, we did. We cut and pasted the interface.
What are the name and price?
Yep.
Type.
Okay,
If you're not
gotcha.
using it, right? I mean, you're always returning book.
You are correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Works for me.
Why you don't want it
Because
type?
I'm not storing the type. I'm always returning book.
Okay.
So you could also do something like this.
Declare, yeah.
We do it static, then it's shared by every member of the class, right?
Oh, type. Okay.
Something like this. And people tend to make this all uppercase to make sure that you know there is a constant. But this could allow you to, oh, for now, I make it static and final, so, but maybe later I'll add it or something like that. Yeah, I wouldn't. I would have done it the other way. Just don't need to have a type if you're not using it, right?
Okay. What's the? Is there a difference when? Say I had done it like I did, where private string type, okay, and then in the constructor, you just take in the name and the price, but then I right there say this dot type equals book. Is that in effect the same as a static,
Well,
or what's the
No,
difference?
it is, but it isn't. The thing is that if you had done it this way, right? Every time that you call new to create a new product, it needs to create 3 slots. One for the name, one for the price, one for the type. And it actually allocates a new string, book, right? Or at least a new pointer to that string. So if you have a million books or a million books, then you'd have a ton of extra space that is wasted.
Static, everything points to that same
Exactly.
object.
Every instance shares the same copy.
Okay, that makes sense. That was actually something I should have asked a long time.
So static is cool.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. This is cool. We are learning stuff. That is good. Write a Java code fragment to create a variable called b1 of type book, defined above, and assign it to a book instance with name catch22 and price $7.95. What would that be?
Book and assigned to
Book B1 equals new book.
We have, right? We just defined it.
Name and price.
Makes sense? So let me I'm gonna create a class, just call it static methods, right? What's the board drive? Okay. So given the product interface above, what a function called average price that takes an array of product and returns a double the average price of the product. Double average price, yeah, static. Public static double. In this case, it is static because you are not going to operate on any instance of an object, right? At least you're not going to be called as b1 dot whatever you're going to be called, right? And in this case, you were asked to have an array, so product
Gotta create some kind of variable, some equal to 0, different start.
Some prices.
Since the price is double, so we don't have to cascade.
Yeah, I don't need to, right, cast to a double because some prices is already double, so it will do the operations as double. My camel casing is bad. So it's a list of products and total product, the product with the highest price, right? So I'm gonna do product price equals product list dot get of 0. Right? That's an easy way to yeah, and then for product P product list
Return highest price.
and again, right, by now these things should be like, right? We have done this kind of stuff a bunch of times.
And in the real world, are you gonna be using arrays for that?
Arrays rather than lists? It depends. Normally, no, you use lists. You never, ever, ever use arrays. It depends what real world. In my real world, I'm doing business programming. I'm talking to databases and doing stuff over the network.
When would you ever use arrays?
Sorry?
When would you ever use arrays besides on the final exam?
On the final exam, when you're implementing lists and vectors, and right, whoever does that uses arrays. Or when you need
Oh, yeah.
when you need performance, an array list has a small performance penalty over an array, right? So if you're doing numeric analysis, dealing with huge matrices or something like that, right? Then arrays make more sense.
Yeah.
Chances are that if you're doing that, you're doing it in C++ rather than Java, but if you're doing something like that, then you use arrays.
Okay, so in the extreme circumstance where you care about that and you know the length
Yeah. For most of the business programming, no. So the stuff that I do where you read stuff from databases, you don't know how big is the list gonna be and that kind of stuff, right? Then I would use an array list, always. So Java has an integer class with a static method parseInt that takes a string and returns an int. This function throws a number format exception if the string does not represent a valid int. So write a static function called parseInt, which takes two arguments, a string and an int, the default value, and returns an int. This function calls integer.parseInt and handles the exception so that if parseInt raises a number format exception, the function would return the default value. So, can I format this line or something like that? No. Oh well.
See an intro line.
Sorry?
See what you're doing.
I should learn to use my IDE, but on the other hand, so we need a static function parseInt. I'm gonna take a string numeric string int default value. So what do I do? I'll call integer dot parseInt of numeric string, and that's what I want to return, right?
Do your try, right?
Well, yeah.
Try.
So this is what I'm trying to do, but this may raise an exception, so I need to do try this thing. Catch number format exception and FE.
What's NFA?
It's just
It's a variable name. You can call it E, you can call it,
Okay, that's. I thought that's.
yes.
Okay.
We normally call them E, but
you just return the default value, right?
yep.
I don't think it likes that.
Yeah. Oh. Makes sense? So I'm gonna do create fraction, right? Takes numerator and denominator, but if the denominator is 0, we'll throw an illegal argument exception.
Fraction, yeah.
Sorry.
Static fraction, yeah.
Thank you. So we need to throw a new invalid something something illegal argument exception. just should do throws. Although in this case it's unnecessary because the legal arguments exception is a runtime exception. Make sense? If I do this, it may work. Oh no, it never works. Never mind. I was hoping that that would. So write a function called array frequencies, takes a list of strings and return a map of string to int. Function maps every string in the array to its frequency, right? So what do we do? This one is mildly interesting. What do we need to do?
We're gonna create a list.
You're volunteering to come do it, right?
I was gonna say, so you need to look at, well, you need to go through the, list.
We need to create such a map, right?
List.
Map
Create the map first.
string integer frequencies.
And then you use it on,
Top. Now, I'm gonna go through all the words. How do I do that?
String, word, all the words.
Words.
Do stuff, right? What do I do? What I want to do is get the frequency and add 1 to it, right? How do I get the frequency for that word from the map?
That's
Frequencies dot what? Right? I'm gonna add 1 to it, and what I'm gonna do is put it this is what I want to do, right? What's the problem?
Is it not gonna delete the old one? That's what I was gonna ask.
I want to delete the old one, right? If the old one said there's a frequency of 2, now I want to say there's a frequency of 3.
Right.
So it does delete the old one, which is what I want.
Oh, okay, it does, when you
when I put, yes, it overrides the value, right? What's my problem now? What happens if the word is not there? What does get give me?
No found.
Yeah,
Null, right? So I could check for null in there, or I could do an if with contains key or something like that. I want to do it easy to understand or fancy? Ah, no,
do it correctly, and then if we
I would do it like this. If contains key, if frequencies dot contains key word, do this, else
just do that with just the one, right?
yeah.
So it'll return a true there?
What do you mean it will return true? Who would return true?
Oh,
Contains key
sorry,
will.
sorry, yeah, that's a boolean, sorry.
Yes. It is officially slightly bad because I am calling contains key and get are take about the same time, right? It needs to go find it anyway. So I'm calling that thing twice. So I could do something like, right, this would work. Could also do integer frequency equals, because in Java, this is null, right? So I would do frequency is null, frequency equals 1, else frequency equals frequency plus 1, and then that's why you need braces.
What's frequencies dot get word doing?
It gets me the value in the map for that corresponds to that word, right?
Okay, and it's string. Oh, so it gets you the okay. This gets you the value.
Gives me the value, yeah. I pass it a key and it gets me the value. So this is another way. I don't know about you, to me it looks uglier, but you only do one call to get. You avoid the call to contains key, which would take some time.
Well, and you can do it kind of the other way too, right?
The other way also works. It's just that you have two calls.
Well, you could still do, couldn't you still do, I mean, with the frequencies dot put.
Yeah, I'm doing frequencies dot put. Oh no, I am an idiot. Oh god, this was wrong. I need to do this outside the else. Because either way I need to put the frequency, right? It's just either put 1 or the old frequency plus 1. Isn't this cool?
Alright, now implement that recursively.
Now, to make your life ha. just
What's that called?
a cleverer way, the ternary operator.
Yeah.
So
It's an if statement.
it's an if statement as an operator. It's an if statement as an expression. Just to remind you that it existed. Don't use it. I commented out the if statement and I'm doing it in there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that unless you tell me it's a good idea.
It's not a good idea. But you need to get it out of your system. It looks a lot cooler, right? It's like, oh, I'm smarter than you are because I can do this, right? And so, not in this class, in data structures, use those things and get it out of your system so that later on you don't use it. Because somebody's going to have to understand that thing. And that may be you on a Friday afternoon. And so, you don't want to do that. But you can also do it. How can I do this? Hate you, horrible thing. How can I get the most common word? Well, I can basically call frequencies and then iterate over the entries in the map, right? No. Public static string. So I can do map of string to integer. I can actually do this, right? Oh, because I need a string, right? I can do this. String. Oh, it's the other way around. It's map dot entry of that.
Okay, so the entry is the key value pair,
Yes.
and frequencies dot entry set also returns the set of.
Returns, yeah, a set of key value pairs.
Okay.
Isn't this cool? Never.
You could. Maybe not.
I could actually do keep a map.entry, make it point to the first one, and then iterate again. But I would be worried to calling entry set twice, because that
Is
may
it-
be a pain.
Well, is there a way? I guess what I was thinking, because it's string to integer. We'd have to get there. To reverse. Well, I was just thinking instead of like reassigning string every time, if you could take that frequency and then at the very end go back in and say, now give me the string attached to that.
You
instead of
could,
doing
but you need to navigate it again, right?
saving it.
Maps are very fast at finding the value for a given key. They are not very fast at finding the key for a given value.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was-
I basically require you to go through the list twice, which is not a good idea. Isn't this cool? Any questions? Let me go through and show a, God, what's going on? An actual exam. Write a function called max3 takes 3 ints, returns an int, the largest of the 3 ints. Should still work if it's a type for max, you can return any int in that case. What would that look like?
You create an int called max, and then you,
Start
it's
with
not even a list of ints, it's just 3
Yeah.
ints.
Yeah, this is
If that one greater than two.
Okay.
Use some if statements and compare
yeah.
comparisons.
So I can actually do this.
X equal to,
Yeah, you make it equal
Yeah.
to the first one, compare it to the second one, compare it to the third one, compare to the second, compare to the max again.
Basically unroll my loop.
Return max.
If you start doing nested ifs and things like that, forks can get you in trouble. What are you complaining about? Add return statement. I always have a return statement. Okay. Let's go.
I had a weird error in my code when I was doing the reviews assignment once, where I just could not get it to run. I had a red underline under the review object. And so finally I deleted reviews.java. I cut it and then I pasted it. And then everything worked. That
Ah.
doesn't sound familiar to you?
No.
Okay.
The IDE was confused or something.
Yeah, I was like, this
I will chalk it to whatever you were drinking at the time.
it was the equivalent to turning it off and on again in the code.
But sometimes, yeah, it reloads and so it. Write code to create a variable m1 which contains a hash map from string to integer and put the key high associated with the value 10. What's the
that,
point
is
of
that
what?
redundant?
Sorry.
Well, you don't need to.
The compiler, they are moving more and more towards still strongly typed, but the compiler not forcing you to write dumb things, right? I mean, the only thing that you, well, not the only thing that you could put, but what most commonly what you're gonna put is the same thing. So they just make you not have to
Oh,
copy.
okay, so it's just making an assumption there. I see, but it could be something else. Okay.
It could be, maybe, I can't remember, and this varies by languages. It could be a subclass of string to a subclass of integer, right? Or actually a superclass of string to a subclass of integer, right? And it would still work, maybe.
That explains.
So when you declare like your M1, and you may have discussed this before, but like you do map and then you do hash map.
What kind of thing is map, and what kind of thing is hash map?
Well, hash map extends map, right?
No, almost.
Or
Map is
implements
an
map's
interface.
so it
Hash
implements.
map is a class.
Okay.
So basically, if you declare your variable to be a hash map, then it will always have to be a hash map. If you declare it to be a map, it may be other kinds of maps.
Right.
We have a tree map,
Right.
which is also useful-ish.
So is that then I guess it would be more based on your usage. Like if you know it's only ever going to be a hash map, then it's okay to declare it a hash
Unless
map. But if
you
you
are
think you might need the
requiring,
flexibility-
unless you are requiring it to be a hash map for some particular reason, it would actually work more the other way around. Hash maps, when you do entry sets and things like that, they don't go in order because they do hash tables. But tree maps will return you the entry set in the order of the keys. So you could require it, right, declare it to be a tree map so that you make use of that or something.
Okay. So it's just done. You just do it that way to increase the flexibility. I guess,
Exactly.
but you can still declare that variable.
Yes. If a
One
year
of the
from
others.
now decide that hash maps are amazing, but sometimes they take forever, and so I want more predictable performance, then I can change that in one place to a tree map, and then everything else works.
So for interfaces, you use the extent implements, and for super, when,
It depends. If you're an interface, you extend other interfaces. If you're a class, you can extend other classes or implement interfaces.
implement interface, okay. So you only use implements for the class being implemented by.
For a class implementing an interface.
Everything else is extends, okay.
Yes. Class to class is extends and interface to interface is extends.